Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to be doing some finishing work down here on the baseboard. As you can see, somebody at one time put a new floor in here. This floor is actually higher than my other floor. As you can see, my dog Opal likes to be in the picture. She likes to see what's going on. And if you've been following my page, you know that she's the shelter dog that we adopted, and she's adjusting very well, which I will do a video shortly on her progress. So as you can see, the difference between the molding on the one side of the floor to the other side of the floor, you can see a significant height difference. This is the top of the molding here, and that's where the top of the molding is over there. So they elected to leave nothing in here, which to me is very unfinished. So we're going to come in here and we're going to keep this molding here as it was. We're going to put another piece of molding in here. We're going to cut it around this saddle right here, and then we're going to trim this down so that it actually fits into this. But as you can see, this is not long enough, so we're going to need to use another piece of wood to actually make it so that it properly fits in there. Another thing I want to point out to you is that this wood here is actually, this is a newer type wood. This is the older type wood, which I found in the garage here. This type wood here is thinner than this wood. So we're going to use an old piece of wood and we're going to just refinish this, and we're going to cut this the way we need to. And then this will be trash. So the way we got this off of here, it was actually nailed in just like that. We took a pry bar like this, put it in through the back right there, and we're able to pry it off of the wall. Now when you're prying in here and you get in here like this, don't just push against the wall like that. Put something behind it like this so you don't damage the wall and wind up having to do some drywall work. So we put this behind it to spread out the force that we're using to pry this piece here off like that. Okay, so that's what we did there. This is going to be trash. And now what we need to do is we need to find out this angle right here so that we can actually put that angle onto this piece of wood. And the way you do that is you take a tool like this here. It's called a contour gauge. Now, I'm not endorsing this company. This just happens to be the one that I have right here. So we take this here, we bring it in, we put it on top of the molding right here, we level it up, and then we just push down on all of these little pieces right here, push them down. I'll bring you in a second, I'll show you what it looks like. We push it in just like this, and you can see now that it has the contour of the old existing floor, the saddle, and up onto the new floor. Okay, so now after we have our contour gauge on there, we now have the contour right here that we need. We'll take this, we'll take our piece of wood that we're going to put on here. Of course, we're going to go into the garage and we're going to cut it over here so that we have the correct angle. And then this piece would go on here, just like that, to the top of the molding, like that. And now we just scribe it down here with a pencil, and we cut it with a saw, and it's called a coping saw because we can follow the line that we're going to scribe on there. All right, so let's go in the garage and we'll continue working on this piece, and then we're going to come back in here and we're going to cut this piece over here and fit it in. Okay, next we're in the garage and we take our chop saw and we're going to create the angle that's going to be up against the existing molding on the hallway. So we're going to cut this at a 45-degree angle so it can line up against the existing one. We're going to take it, we're going to put it in the saw itself, we're going to bring it down, and we're going to cut it all the way through. Make sure everything is nice and straight and cut it very slowly. Here we go. Okay, so now we have our angle cut that's going to fit up against the existing molding that's there now. Next, we need to determine the length of how much we need it. So we're going to go in here, we're going to cut it we're going to cut it a little bit longer than we normally would, and then we'll do our contour gauge on here. Okay, so next we took our contour gauge, we put it on here. We put a line of how we're going to cut the molding so that it contours to the floor. All right, now we're going to cut this a little bit longer than we normally would because I have to go inside and I have to cut it to make sure it fits exactly right. So we're going to cut it a little bit longer. We're going to give ourselves probably about another inch or so. So we'll cut it back in this area right over here. And that's it. Now we'll grab our coping saw, which is a saw that you can, which is a saw like this. We're going to come in here and we're going to follow those lines, and we're going to cut this along those lines with our coping saw. All right, so let me cut this off over here. We'll cut this out, and then I'll show you how it goes. Okay, so this is just a temporary cut that's on here. We are going to have to shorten this down later on, but now we're going to come in here, we're going to make our cut inside here, and then we have this side already cut at a 45-degree angle to go on to the other molding, which we're going to put in. So let me cut this out, we'll match it up inside, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, that's our angle for the existing floor. So we'll go inside now, we're going to fit it and see how it looks. We'll see how it is. All right, so as you can see, the angle here is good. The angle here is good, but we did cut this longer than we anticipated. So now we're going to come in here and we're going to shorten this down a little bit. But first we're going to cut that piece right there to make sure that it fits in there correctly. So let's measure how far it is. And it's about 9.5 inches. So we're going to cut this a little bit longer. We're going to make it about 9 3/4, and then we'll shorten it down exactly so it fits nice and tight. All right, so let's cut it 9 3/4 at a 45-degree angle on this piece over here, and then we'll shorten it down so that we have the correct height. As you can see, this one here is about 1 3/4 inches. So we'll need to shorten down that piece of wood in the garage, so let's do that. Okay, so now we know that this is the piece that we're going to cut now. We know we're going to make it 9 3/4 to 10 inches. I'm going to make it slightly longer because I can always cut it shorter, but I can't cut it longer. All right, so we marked it here, 10 inches. Now, if you remember correctly, this is going to go this way. The new piece that we have here like this is going to go this way. So we need to cut this at a 45-degree angle so that these two pieces line up together. So we marked it already, the angle that we want on it. We want a 45-degree at that point right there. So let's put it on our saw and we'll cut it through. Hold it in place. Make sure you have it up against your fence right there. Bring it down like this. And now we're going to cut it through. So now we have a nice angle that both of them will come together just like this. Okay? Just like that, so it's a nice corner. But we need to cut this one down to this size right here because remember, this is touching the floor inside. So we're going to go inside, we're going to measure how much we have to cut off on the bottom right here, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut it off right here, and we're going to use a table saw to make a nice straight even cut. All right, so let's measure it up and we'll come back and cut it. Okay, so now we made sure we put our guard 1 3/4 inches away from the blade, so that's where we're going to cut it. We're going to send our wood through here to cut it nice and straight along this part right here. Now be careful, watch your fingers. That saw can definitely take a finger off, so be real careful. All right, we're going to send it through very slowly. Here we go. Okay, so we cut a nice straight line along here. We are going to have to take a little bit more off because I always leave it a little bit longer and cut it a little bit shorter as needed. All right, but that's how we did it. We ran it through, shortened it down to the size we need. So now this and the piece that we cut with the taper will line up just like that. But as I said, we're probably going to have to take a little bit more off. You can see on the bottom, but we're going to go in there and going to fit it just to make sure. Okay, let's see how it fits. This one fits good. It's contoured to the floor perfectly. Our other piece here fits perfectly. Now obviously we're going to get our nail gun and we're going to nail this in, but as you can see all our cuts are now done. So we'll grab our nail gun, nail it up, we'll paint it, and it'll be perfect. So now this side is even with the other side over here. Everything is nice and uniform and straight, nothing sticking up. All right, let's get our nail gun, let's nail it in there, and we'll wrap this job up. So now we have our molding in place. I just want to point this out. We're going to nail it with a brad nailer, which is a very small, thin nail to minimize the splitting of the wood. When you nail it in, you want to be careful because right up in here, there's a piece of metal that runs up here, and you won't be able to nail into it. So we're going to nail it here, and then we're going to come over here and do the same thing here, and that'll be it. So be aware of the metal in the end here. It goes in probably about 3/4 of an inch, something like that. All right, so here we go. We're going to nail it in, hold it in place where you want it. Okay, so that's nailed up nice and tight. We'll do the same thing on this one right here, just like this. I know it's hard to see. And that's it. As you can see now, everything is nailed up nice and tight, and it's finished. Okay, so as you can see, taking a little bit of extra time to make the job come out perfect is such a big part in finishing off any project. To me, that was a halfway done job. The guy who did this job wanted to save himself a little bit of time, and I guess the homeowner was happy with it. But now, as you can see, it's perfectly lined up. We're going to put some paint on it, and it'll be perfect. All right, our next project is to do this one behind me. We're going to do the exact same thing on this one over here. But that's it. This project is done, and we're on to the next one. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.